Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's discussion. It's a very personal one for many of us. As you all know, University of Rochester has partnered with the City School District and the State Education Department for about a decade now on a school transformation project at East High in the Rochester City School District. And we are very careful not to say reform because reform might suggest that something was wrong with the place. And that's why we came in to support. Transformation implies that there is a bi-directional relationship where all parties benefit towards achieving a common goal. And for us and for the city school district and for the state, it was to create a school system that our children deserved, that our faculty deserved, that our staff deserved, and more importantly, that our parents were proud to call their own. And so after a transformational 10-year educational partnership between the University of Rochester and East High, East is going back under the control of the Rochester City School District's portfolio of schools. During this talk, our presenters, Superintendent Marlene Blocker and Chief Academic Officer Jennifer Cody, who have both worked at East in varying capacities throughout their 10 years of this partnership, will provide a candid update and share details about the transition with attention to process, some challenges, opportunities, and implications for the future. I'm going to encourage you all to ask questions in the chat so that we can try to answer those throughout the presentation, but if not, we'll have time at the end to address all of your questions. So let me give you a little bit of context about how we got here. Roughly 10 years ago, actually 11 years ago, the University of Rochester was approached by then President Van White to consider a school transformation model that gave the university and the city an opportunity to partner. This partnership would allow us, as Jennifer and Marlene will describe throughout their presentation, to restructure our time, focus on professional development, work towards meeting the needs, the articulated needs of the staff, the teachers, the parents, the community, everyone, but to also leverage the expertise of the Warner School of Education and its professionals, as well as various departments throughout the university, as we sought to bolster partnerships in employment and medical careers and business, and the list goes on and on and on. We understood that doing this all at once, as our good friend Joanne Larson will say, was atypical. It is not something that people were doing. But we understood that if we did not take a drastic attempt to change the school setting, that we would just be delaying the failure that our children were experiencing. So in order to create an environment where students and staff and community thrived, as opposed to having to survive, we had to do it all at once. And there were some bumps along that way, lessons learned, but I'm proud to say that those students, those individuals, parents, teachers, et cetera, who were part of this process were the true change makers because they trusted in the process, they owned the process, and they shared that process and those results with generations of students, faculty, parents, and kids to come. So without any further ado, I want to introduce our wonderful superintendent, Marlene Blocker, and the Chief Academic Officer, Jennifer Cody.
I would like to say welcome everyone to this talk. We're looking forward to your questions, and we're looking forward to sharing what has taken place over the past 10 years. It has been a whirlwind with both tremendous challenges as well as successes taking place. Hard work has been done and continues to be done daily by so many people here at East. It has been a collective and a collaborative effort with the U of R, East, scholars and families, and our community partners here. I started out as the principal of the East Lower School. I did that for about 2 months of the first year and then became the principal of the entire lower and upper. Then spent 8 years as the upper school principal and the last 2 years as the superintendent. I just want to say I would not have been here if it wasn't for Dr. Eubing and Dr. Sean Nelms and the vast planning committee from the University of Rochester's Warner School of Education. The Warner School pitched an idea that was very risky, but deeply planned and life-saving for our scholars and our community. So I'm proud to be here today and look forward to our talk. Jen?
Like Marlene, I am deeply appreciative of the opportunity to have been a part of the East University of Rochester partnership over the past 10 years and incredibly grateful to those who led the effort as catalysts for much needed change here in our educational community. I had worked at East prior to the partnership for about 6 years, though during the re-interview process in 2015, I did enter the partnership in a new administrative role, supporting the use of data to inform our efforts, while also leading the development of our literacy program and supporting lower school ELA. In 2020, when Dr. Sue Meyer retired from her role as our Chief Academic Officer, I stepped into this role and have been leading all of the efforts related to curriculum, instruction, and academic programming since. And thanks to each of you for being here today.
So we plan to offer a quick glance at the last 10 years, and then we also strongly encourage open dialogue, and that will take place after we do a brief introduction of what has taken place.
And so just for context, we are a 612 public middle and high school. We have around 1,200 students that are enrolled between the two schools, the vast majority of whom are considered economically disadvantaged. And with regard to ethnicity, our student body is mostly Black and Hispanic, almost evenly distributed, which makes up about 90% of enrolled students. And under the EPO, we did remain a public open high school with no specialized entrance criteria.
So now I'm going to provide a quick partnership context and timeline. As Dr. Nelm said, East was deemed one of the lowest achieving schools in New York for several years. And we had multiple accountability structures that labeled us as a priority school that was both persistently struggling and dangerous. Then in 2014, it was determined by the New York State Education Department that East was out of time. So they had choices. They were going to close the school, make it a charter, do it under SUNY governance, phase it out completely, or find an educational partner that wanted to take it on. And I'm incredibly proud to say that that educational partner became the University of Rochester. The university in particular acted swiftly instead of just thinking they could come in and change things without having a deep understanding of where East was, to study the system, to design the things that were required and needed for change, to identify some foundational principles that we could move from where we were to the desired state, to select modes for each facet that was aligned to the principles, to garner resources, to build structures, and to make a plan. In 2015, we opened, the university took over, and the governance began, and it has been an amazing party. We planned for it to last 5 years. It went 5 years, and we started to see the success of all the hard work that was put into the planning. And then in 2020, it was extended for 5 more years. So the EPO will end this June 2025. We look at it as we had 10 years that we never thought we would have to make the changes that we've done. And we're very proud and thankful for the things that have happened.
So just a quick overview of the goals and the model. So the ultimate goal of the partnership was indeed to improve student learning. That is our shared why, and why all of us are here committed to K-12 education. In order to do that, the university in the EPO plan identified these 4 major categories for change. One was ensuring a guaranteed and viable curriculum, as there wasn't that across all content areas in our school prior. A best practice model for teaching for understanding, ensuring academic supports, and social emotional support. So within those 4 major categories, there was then a layer of key initiatives built on those categories. And these are things that you may have heard about over the years based on your affiliation with Warner, with the U of R, with East. And those key initiatives were surrounded by and held up and supported by these structures that support. So ensuring collaborative planning time, distributed leadership, the extent to which some of these were supported in union contracts. And then beyond that, there were additional elements that supported success, such as, again, our philosophies around inclusive special ed, the work that we've done as a school around culturally relevant, responsive, and sustaining practices, the continuum we've built of acceleration and enrichment. So we're going through this a little bit quickly, as this is not a presentation on the East model itself, but we'd like to get to the point where we're really engaging you and understanding what's happening with the transition. But if you want to know more about any of these things, we're always more than happy to talk about them.
One of the truly amazing things that has happened is the number of connections we've had with the U of R. And I'm not going to read each one of these, but it gives you a flavor of the different layers and levels and departments at the U of R that have been directly involved with this partnership. And we strongly believe will continue to be directly involved with East High School. Obviously, the Warner School has led most initiatives that we've done, but we also have a health clinic here. We opened up a dental clinic. Flom Eye Institute is one of our partners. We have the Step to College program for any of our kids that are looking to go to college, to give them opportunities to see as many as possible and to be prepared. With Simon Business School, the medical department at the U of R has been astronomical in providing internships for our kids. They've seen surgeries firsthand. We have a phlebotomy program now where the scholars actually leave being certified phlebotomists. So it's been a really creative and unique opportunity to join multiple partnerships together within one entity, the U of R, to service kids and families for our district.
And we've seen some success, which we're going to go into some specific data points on the next few slides, but we wanted to pause with this image and to really zoom out and just say that there's so many elements that have been successful. It's really hard to capture it because it's more than just the data. It's the commitment that's been built around kind of that motto, all in, all the time. Staff, families, our partners have been all in all the time for 10 years here. There's a welcoming and affirming environment where culture has become contagious. There's athletic, artistic, musical, CTE, and community experiences that allow our scholars to both build and showcase a variety of their talents and skills. So in essence, we're going to very briefly distill 10 years of incredibly hard work and countless successes into a few slides here to provide context, but you could visit East every single day and see a multitude of things to celebrate.
When the U of R took over, suspensions here at East were at an all-time high, just shy of 2,500. If you take that number and you just multiply it by a typical suspension that might be 3 days or 5 days, you can quickly see how much instruction was missed routinely for kids at East. We implemented restorative practices. We experienced some deep growing pains that first year, especially of trying to find the delicate balance of restoring relationships and repairing harm, but also holding individuals accountable. But as you can see, we are dipped to an all-time low in 2021. COVID was our greatest blessing for suspensions, but we've also done tremendous work, and we're roughly at about a little over 700 right now. We continue to find ways to reduce that whenever we can.
In terms of academics, something that we celebrate that was one of the named goals within the EPO plan itself was reducing the percentage of students who are scoring in the lowest possible band on our New York State assessment. So what you're seeing is our New York State 6 through 8 ELA assessment results, the top bar represents the year before the EPO. And in that year, 75% of our middle school population scored in the lowest possible band, a level 1, on the New York State assessment, with only 2%, that sort of small green slice of kids scoring proficiently. Fast forward to 10 years later, and you see that we decreased the percentage of students scoring in the lowest band to 45%, and we've increased the students scoring either proficiently or with mastery to 17%. And, you know, closing those gaps in middle school where students are coming to us from elementary school with in such a short time before they sit and take those assessments in April continues to be a challenge. And this only further reinforced the need for earlier intervention, which is why we brought 6th grade into our middle school under the EPO so that we could intervene sooner and try to close those gaps between our lower school and our freshman academy and really set the kids up for high school, which you're going to see in the results from our upper school results. So these are our New York State high school Regents assessments on-time pass rates. So on-time meaning, you know, a typical student takes and passes their algebra, math Regents in 9th grade, their living environments or biology, science Regents in 9th grade, global in 10th grade, and ELA and US history and government in 11th grade. And so you follow that trajectory of, you know, previously in the lower school, only 2% of kids scoring proficiently on their ELA assessment. That meant that, as you see there, that kind of bright yellow line, by the time those kids were getting to 11th grade, only 1/3 of them were passing the New York State English Regents assessment. And so you can understand why then so many kids were not graduating. Ooh, sorry, lights turned off. And then over the course of 10 years, you see that we now have 59% or, you know, close to 60% passing that English Regents on time, which again, still room for growth there. And what you're not seeing here, because we tried to make this simple in terms of just a before and after, this was not a straight line. So COVID happened in here. We had gotten up to about 60% with those ELA scores in particular, saw a dip pre-COVID, but I think what the trend lines that you're seeing attest to is how quickly, because of the systems and because of the curriculum that has been built here, how quickly our scholars were able to recover from the COVID dip.
This slide is our 4-year graduation rate and one that brings great pride to all of us. You can see collectively and also by subgroups, we have made tremendous gains. It is still not where we want it to be and where we aspire to be, but it is a long way from where we were. When you think about East prior to the EPO, 1/3 of the kids graduated, approximately 33%. When you think about where we're at now, 3/4 graduate. When you look at, for example, the different subgroups, English language learners, only 1 out of 10 was graduating back then, and now we're at 6 out of 10. It's scary to think that you could go from a probability of 16% graduating by stepping into a school, and now 10 years later, you have a 61% probability of graduating. I'm proud to say our highest rate was at 85%. After COVID, we slipped back down a little bit. We certainly did not regress to where we were, and we're continuing to make adjustments to continue to get back up to that 80% and higher. The 4-year dropout rate has been drastically reduced as a direct result of creating a safe and nurturing environment that has been culturally responsive to our scholars with all of the curriculum work that we've done. Relationships matter, and that has been a key foundational item that visitors comment on repeatedly when they come here. Every time we take 2 people through a tour or we show them our different CTE programs, the first thing they say afterwards is it's so clear that the kids and adults are connected, that they're loved, that there's respect toward one another. And that's something we take great pride in, because in order to truly help kids cross the finish line, you have to have built a strong rapport with them, understand their challenges and their hopes and their dreams. And the entire East community has made that a focus. When kids walk through the door, we want them to feel welcome. When they're in classes, they want to be able to see themselves in the education that they're receiving. And we want them to know when they're not in our arms here at school, that we are supporting them in what other challenges they may have. So our dropout rate has gone at one point from 50% for English language learners down to 14%. For general population, it has dropped all the way down to 8.2% from 40%.
And so just to offer some personal reflections on the partnership before we move on to the transition, those of us that are here at East do consider that a successful approach in so many ways. The university's planning, their involvement, and their collaborative stance clearly have changed our school's trajectory over the past 10 years. Some of the things that I most appreciate have been the really robust long-term EPO plan that was put together by those at the Warner School, that was informed by research and that really acted as a guide for those of us here implementing it throughout, and helped us remain at the forefront of many of the practices that contributed to the success that you see. The structures and the systems that were established, the advocacy, the support that we received, the organizational coherence, and the consistent leadership. A shout out to Dr. Nelms, who in a larger system that sees a rotation through the superintendent seat, Dr. Nelms stayed in the superintendent seat here at East for 8 years, and Marlene stepped into that position. So there has been consistent leadership at the top of this for the entire 10 years. And what that does within the organization just bolsters the foundations for success. Our university partners have supported us consistently to achieve our mission and vision. And it's not that everything has, was what was stated in the EPO plan and was, marching forward, implementing for 10 years. There was this true collaborative conversation and dialogue around what does this look like in the school setting? How can we monitor how it's going? How can we adapt it? And so it just really allowed for the refinement and for the evolution in very purposeful and intentional ways that, again, I think have positioned us and those here at the school for success moving forward. Such capacity has been built here that I do believe that those that are here in the school have so much of what they need to take and continue this work moving forward.
So then we came to that dreadful spring evening in 2024, where the board was going to make a decision on whether to continue this partnership or end this partnership. And what was truly interesting was when we tried to sit down to come up with some slides to capture things, it ended up being thing after thing after thing that we were so excited to share that we had done, and to show them that you can't just change one thing, that so many of our pieces are intangibles. They're all interrelated. And so they would say, well, what's one thing that you could do without, or what's another thing? And it's not really that easy to do. You have to look at the whole picture and understand by changing just the schedule, you're now changing perhaps the curriculum offerings. And if you change the 72-minute blocks that we have, we spent 10 years in the process of trying to create lessons by design that correlate with that 72 minutes. So if you take that away, you have to change things again. But we decided after much stress that the best way to do it was to align the work to the New York State tenets that we have. And they're tenet 1, systems, tenet 2, school leadership, tenet 3, curriculum, 4, instruction, 5, social emotional learning, and 6, community engagement. And we said, what we'll do is we'll get people from East, people from RCSD and people from the U of R, scholars and parents, if it was applicable, to engage in informal and ongoing collaboration by tenants. So we tried to identify what happened in a tenant that we felt made East successful, came up with some baseline ideas that we knew were instrumental in continuing. We talked about them with RCSD. What are they doing right now? What are we doing right now? How can we merge some things so it equates to success for not only East kids, but for RCSD in general? We know we can learn from them and they can learn from us. How can we share this information and make the process smooth? I provide regular updates to the board each month at the board meetings. We have EPO board meetings where internal updates and decisions are made. And then I share with the staff and the school-based community what is going on for students and families to understand what decisions have been made that are recommendations we are giving to continue to move East forward. So a variety of topics have already been discussed and decided upon as best recommendations, and they go across various areas of the school functioning. What led to the decision to transition back East to the RCSD is what people ask me all the time. Why are you going back? Why? Many felt it would cost too much. It cost too much. Others felt that there was inequality in resources. What the EPO has continued to say, and what I have continued to say over and over and over, is that the EPO was not looking for equality. It was not looking for equity. What we were truly seeking was justice for our kids, the ability to thrive and succeed regardless of their zip code. So we're going to share with you what some of the decisions have been made thus far. None of the decisions have been easy. It's been a give and take, but we do believe we're in a really great spot right now to continue forward. And we're most proud that the systems and structures we put in place the last 10 years were meant to be able to move forward. They weren't just moments in time.
So as Marlene said, some of the school structures that have been in place and that we are proud to say will remain is that the school day will remain at 7.5 hours. For us, extending the school day was critical for embedding elements like our family group model, like collaborative planning time for our teachers, as well as running a master schedule with 10 instructional periods of 72-minute blocks every other day. That's foundational to a lot of our academic programming, including the embedded opportunities for our scholars to experience everything from remediation to enrichment within their actual school schedule. So that remaining, again, is a critical structure, as Marlene said. Bell times remaining the same. The lower school will continue with yellow buses and upper school with RTS buses. Again, like that is a lever that supports with getting kids to school on time attendance, relates to improved academic outcomes. And again, that collaborative planning time that has been such a crucial element in supporting collaborative professional learning of our teachers. So again, although these are things that we're happy are remaining, with all of these things, we're trying to strike a realistic balance of effective and fiscal efficiency for some of these pieces that we were benefiting from so long.
On the enrollment side, one of the pushes the district continued to say was, how can we have more children that can benefit from what has taken place here? We've always struggled to fill the 6th grade openings just because it's not a natural transition period in RCSD. The elementary schools go K through 6, and then 7 through 8 is another juncture. So we decided that it would be a solid agreement to cap the 6th grade at 40 students, so we know exactly what resources we need instead of holding resources and hoping that we got to that 100 that we were seeking in the past. Grades 7 and 8 are each going to be capped at 180. And then starting at grade 9 next year, we will add 50 scholars, and then each year thereafter into that initial 9th grade cohort, add 50 more, so that we're at the point that we have 250 in each cohort. In addition to that, we have numerous NYSA classes, so New York State alternate assessment student classes that will be added, self-contained classes that will be added. Those numbers are not represented in these numbers. So we'll move from a 200 cohort model to a 250 cohort model starting next year. And we also got agreement that all lower school 8th graders could roll up to 9th at East moving forward unless they choose to opt out.
In terms of partnerships and community resources, and Marlene had shared the many partnerships that we have throughout the University of Rochester, which we do anticipate all of those remaining, or many of those remaining. But in addition, we do plan to remain as a community school and operate under the community school model. We have a community coordinator position that has been added within these past 10 years under the EPO. Most district schools, I believe, have those at this point. That will remain, again, as a consistency across. We have the health and the dental clinics. Those will also remain and be supported by the RCSD. And then some of those, again, other partnerships that provide those wraparound services that, again, meet student needs in a way that allows them greater access to greater academic outcomes, like Food Link, Center for Youth, and Leader in Me partnerships. They'll remain. And again, we have been very intentional in terms of pinpointing the actual funding sources and ensuring continuity of services.
The EPO felt that one of the greatest needs was the social emotional needs of our kids, to have those met based on the number of adverse childhood experiences so many of our scholars have experienced. And that really has to do with our counselors and social workers that we have here at East. But in addition, the way we collaboratively work, our assistant principals with our counselors and social workers. So it was agreed that we will continue to have 2 assistant principals, 2 counselors, and 2 social workers at the lower school. 6th grade will join on those 40 students with 7th graders. Freshman Academy, we all know, is a really pivotal point. We're almost at the point where we could tell you what our graduation rate will be based on the success of our Freshman Academy scholars earning 5 or more credits. So we will continue to augment the support there by having 2 administrators, 2 counselors, and 2 social workers just for that freshman cohort. And then as they move on to grades 10 through 12, they will transition back to 1 AP, 1 counselor, and 1 social worker. The other major decision that was made and that the district also has seen great value in and is moving towards is the teacher leader model that we have had here at East. We have had teacher leaders in all subject areas that have worked to promote the growth of the people within their department, to create unity and consistency. And they will continue to gain professional learning next year as the district embarks on this model in a similar fashion.
With regards to special education, our district has communicated a desire to ensure all students with disabilities, no matter their disability or program, can equitably engage in the school of choice process. And so in order for this to be able to happen, they would like to see all schools enacting the full continuum of services, which for us will be an expanded continuum to again include 12-in-1 self-contained classes, which have not been a part of the continuum at East under the EPO, as we had purposefully taken a more inclusive approach. Because again, during that initial fact-finding year, we noticed that only 2% of kids who were in 12-in-1 self-contained classes all the way through their high school career were graduating. So taking that more inclusive approach, we believe is what has contributed to that increased graduation rate for our students with disabilities. So although we are taking in these 12-in-1 self-contained classes, and there is meant to be equity in that across the district has also indicated a keen interest in our approach and expressed a desire to learn from that inclusive approach, so that as scholars make their way up through the years, ideally we can move them into a less restrictive, more inclusive environment, particularly in their high school years, when it does become more limiting for them to be in that self-contained setting.
Another thing that we've seen change at East is the number of bilingual students that we have. We're now at the point at lower school, it is the majority of the scholars. And what would happen is the kids were in a bilingual program K through 6, but then they came over to East at 7th and 8th grade, and that switch for bilingual was turned off because we didn't have a program to offer them that was staffed. And then they would move to 9th grade and it would be turned back on, where we have a full bilingual offering for all subject areas. So it has been agreed that the bilingual program will be expanded to lower school. We'll start out first with bilingual teaching assistants and hopefully be able to acquire bilingual teachers. Our teaching and learning program, I am incredibly proud to say, has turned out one of our bilingual teachers that we have right now that was a graduate of East 5 years ago. And so if we continue to do the work here that we've done, we'll be able to help both East and the community have teachers that are better able to meet the needs of the kids that are in front of them. We're going to expand to both a transitional bilingual program for our upper school scholars and a heritage speaker program, so that kids that come in can still build upon their heritage and continue to grow both bilingually and through English and through Spanish. It's been great to have so many of our kids earn the seal of biliteracy. We're one of the top performers in that area for the district. And it's been great to see the pride that they have not had to stifle what their past has given them. They've been able to celebrate it and grow.
In terms of our academic programming and curriculum, we do have confirmation that our current courses will be transferred into the RCSD course catalog. We will be able to continue offer the courses that we have developed over the past 10 years. Any new course requests will go through the RCSD's process moving forward, and we've collaborated with them in terms of making some suggestions based on the process we had here at East. And East's curriculum will definitely continue to be used through the 25-26 school year. And then in addition to that, we have established a process for East and the RCSD curriculum to be compared and analyzed across all content areas over the course of, I would say it's about 14, 15 months, 1 month per content area. So we started with social studies in February. A team of 8, 4 from the RCSD and 4 from East, came together, reviewed both East and the RCSD's curriculum. And I will say that that was an incredibly collaborative process and very encouraging to find kind of the gems in both. And now we're thinking about a way that we can move forward with East's curriculum being a resource for others in the RCSD as well.
I'm very happy to share that as these decisions have been made, the current superintendent, Dr. Strickland, has been incredibly supportive. It's really taken away the we versus them that sometimes has felt very prevalent over the last 10 years and is now turning into we collectively. One of the key decisions that were made was, even though the EPO was going to end, The collective bargaining agreements with the RTA, the Teachers Association, and the Administrators Association was extended through next year. So that will allow for continuity to continue. There are many things that are in the RTA contract, such as Jen mentioned earlier, with our collaborative planning time, our family groups, our 72-minute blocks, our ongoing professional learning, not just drive-bys once a month. All of those things will be able to continue for next year as we tweak all the other decisions that need to be made to fully transition back under RCSD governance.
Obviously, there's still many decisions on the horizon. These are some of them, and those tenant-specific teams that Marlene talked about will continue to meet throughout the rest of this school year and summer and into next year if needed to continue making those recommendations.
Challenges for us, the biggest challenge is the unknown. How long are we actually planning for? Are we making plans for 1 year? And then after they take away the 2 MOAs, they're going to revert everything back. Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? The Board of Education has truly made a commitment for this to be a smooth and seamless transition. The superintendent has been working hand in hand with us. But as we know, there have been constant transitions in the RCSD leadership. And so we will continue to have to work through and navigate the different changes and bring more people into the fold of what we've done the last 10 years that have had no connection to it. We're always trying to prioritize success factors and what are the intangibles. Every time you change one little thing, it has an impact on so many others. We're trying to balance the continuity of what quality education is with the logistical demands of change. We knew we were going to change. It wasn't a continuation plan, it was a transition plan, but what is the most effective way to do that? We try to communicate changes as much as possible to staff, students, and families so that they feel informed and that their voices are heard. It's going to be a challenge with the integration of the academic programs and the alignment with district processes. And to be honest, after being away from district processes for 10 years, there are many things they're doing that we're not keenly aware of anymore either. So we really have to merge those together. And then just addressing the emotions and resistance and concern from so many different stakeholders of what is next. And none of us know, and that's why we've continued to work collaboratively to try to make this as smooth as possible and uninterrupted for our scholars.
And so along with the challenges, there's also incredible opportunities coming our way. There has certainly been so much work done that there is this forward energy or momentum that East has because of this partnership. So you can imagine it as a train that's already moving swiftly in the right direction. It's certainly going to take a lot of force or energy to slow us down. So there's an opportunity for us here at the school to leverage that momentum for our own continued improvement and innovation. As Marlene talked about, we've sort of unintentionally existed in this bubble of sorts as well. We were reminded of this by a teacher earlier this week who pointed out that he has spent his 10-year career here at East, and it's the only system that he has ever known. And his network, are the people here at East. So we know that inclusion in a wider network of collaborators gives us access to so many other perspectives and contexts. And so we look forward to that in the transition back to sit alongside our Rochester City School District colleagues as well. Another example in terms of thinking about the opportunities for growth and development, East staff have and continued to be tapped to lead efforts both within and outside of the school as well. And as Marlene said, as enrollment increases, greater scholar access to the benefits of East will happen here on our campus. And ideally, as we are able to continue collaborating with the district, and perhaps some of what we've done here is able to be grown outwardly, even more scholars will benefit in the future.
Some say, what does looking ahead mean for us? We really have three key priorities that we're working on: increasing the enrollment in a smooth way so that it does not disrupt everything we've done. So we're trying to do that incrementally, as we said. The collaboration with the RCSD, both with curriculum and instruction especially, but also with best practices that are happening. And then we're looking to be at the forefront of change and growing continuously. As I shared, our Seal of Biliteracy program that we have developed here has been very successful. The individual arts assessment pathway that is new for graduation, we are one of the schools piloting and working on that. A multitude of CTE offerings and work-based learning. So our role in reaffirming the district's commitment to continuous improvement is important because we have spent 10 years growing and growing and growing. And we want to make sure that continues, not only for us, but for anyone else within the district we can support. We plan to build on our past successes and address the remaining areas of growth. And anyone in education knows there's always something to learn every single day that will enhance it. We look forward to collaborating more, and we have a vision for East in the context of the broader district's educational strategy now. So that's what our future is looking like.
At this point, we'd like to open it up for your questions, which I've seen some coming in through the chat, and also invite any reflections from many of you who have been a part of this work. If you would like to unmute yourself and share your own insights about the partnership, the transition, or your hopes for the future of East.
Thanks, Jen. If you want to stop sharing so I can see everyone's faces in case they can raise their hand. First of all, I want to thank you both for for trying to condense all of that wonderful work. So let's kind of give them some virtual high fives and claps in 30 minutes or 40 minutes or less. I know it's been a tremendous amount of work, and I'm going to get to the questions first before we open it up for commentaries. I'm going to get to the questions that are here because they might answer some of those burning comments and questions. But before I do that, I just want to say when I first met Jen, she was Jen. She had a different last name then. But Jen has she came into her interview as assistant principal. She was part of the process of reapplying to the new East in year one, and her administrative interview was probably the best that I have been a part of in my entire 26 years of school leadership or teaching. She came in with incredible data sets. She talked about the kids first. She talked about structure. And I think after the interview, I said to her, you're not going to be an AP in this system. I said, you're going to work under former Warner professor Sue Meyer, and we're going to train you to be her transition person as a chief academic officer. And as you can tell, her steadfast approach to letting the data drive decisions, but also honoring the context of people in the school, the teachers, the parents, whoever, students, really helped create a model and continue and actually improve a model that Warner established in the first few years. So I want to just take a moment to thank Jen for sticking with it for 10 years and totally reprogramming herself for what it meant to be a leader at East and for leading that work with our teacher leaders, et cetera. So thank you, Jen. And Marlene, what more can we say about Marlene Blocker? Marlene came in year one. I've known Marlene for years. I begged her to come. She originally came in as a middle school principal. And I thought at one point, Marlene was going to slash my tires because you can tell she was just itching to do more. Not that middle school is easy, but she had done incredible work in transforming high schools. And mid-year of that year, she became the high school principal. And her and I sat down and did a data dive. And in that conversation, we realized that our graduation rate was actually trending towards 19% and not 19% because many of the students were in the wrong classes. And Marlene and I just worked hand in hand and side by side. And she is not only an amazing superintendent, but she's a really close friend. There are times when I'm looking on at the East games and my son's staying next to her and I'm at home watching online. And I didn't know my son was at the game, but he would always go to find Ms. Blocker and he felt that he was very much part of the East community. But that's how all kids feel at East. They feel pretty much that they're leading and part of that community. So one of the questions that we have is from Pat Van Brogen, and it's how are the students feeling about these changes and how are they reacting?
That's a great question. We've tried to really keep the kids informed, especially through our Lighthouse Committee, so that when changes are coming, that we get their input. We've done surveys, we run cohort town halls that kids could provide input. I think they're like all of us. There's trepidation of what is next, but we keep reassuring them that the train, as Jen said, already has enough motion behind it that it's going to continue forward. And we continue to remind them that we're in control of what happens at East. We have to have the positive attitude and continue to do the things that make this an environment where every student wants to be.
Thank you. I'm going to skip down to Kevin's question because it kind of has to do with this a little bit as well. Kevin from Warner. He says, can you share some lessons learned from the ways you're communicating the transition with stakeholders, i.e. scholars, families, teachers in the school community? What have we learned and what might other schools think about doing?
I think the greatest thing that we've learned is when people don't have information, it creates a frenzy. And so we have tried very hard to continue to inform the community, the board, our kids in classes every day, exactly what they could anticipate happening to some degree. And we're also just trying to continue to reassure them that what has been in place 10 years will continue to be in place.
Some of it too, I think of as the communication that's coming our way. So as we have known that, this topic, the literacy program, is coming up for discussion on the transition team, one of the things that I have done is I'll go meet with the literacy team to get their input, meet with the administrative team to get their input, meet with some kids or some parents, right? So this idea of the shared decision making and really trying to get the information from everyone who has an active stake in that particular decision, again, is foundational to the philosophy of restorative practices, doing it with, we're doing all of this with each other as a community so that ideally nothing feels as though it's being done to people. I will say a challenge in the communication is with shared decision making. Some of these things are not decisions being made in one single moment. They're decisions that are being talked about over months. And you might think you're going down one direction with the decision at one point. But again, through further analysis, then you start going down another direction. And sometimes for people in the system, it's hard because if you communicate along the way, they feel like it's a back and forth or like you're changing your mind. So deciding when to communicate what strategically also is hard, but also is important for the well-being of the staff.
I'm going to combine two questions here, so I think that they're related. One would be, has there been any discussion about what will happen if the RCSD begins to, the grad rates and performance measures start to slide in the negative direction after graduation, after the transition, I'm sorry. And then also, what will happen to some of the more East-specific programs like Step to College, CHAMPS, phlebotomy, the list goes on? What kind of commitments have you heard from the district?
So the first one is I feel 100% certain, should there be a decline in areas, that immediately the district will work collaboratively with East to try to figure out where did it go wrong after the EPO ended, or what do we need to do to move it in a more positive direction? So there's certainly talk of what could happen when this ends, and could this be catastrophic, not only for the East kids, but essentially the community. So I believe we have a full commitment to continue to make this be successful. As far as the other question, I think it's really important that we continue to work together. And Sean, will you just say that second part one more time, please?
Yeah, so what will happen with some of the East-specific programs like CHAMP, Step to College, some of those ones?
So we're already working with the district. Step to College is interested in growing. So we're trying to determine what would be another school or two schools that would be the best fit for that program to go there. Our CTE programs, We continue to develop them and share information. We continue to invite kids in, and our programs service other kids. And by adding 50 more kids, or essentially 200 more by 4 years, there will be more kids that have opportunities to take advantages of the things that are happening here. But just as importantly, we will have the opportunity to help implement some of those things at other places.
And I love the fact that you're still using the term "we," and you still see yourself being very committed to that, which makes me happy. I'm going to combine two questions from Nicole and Haynes and Don Pryor. How can the rest of the district and its other schools benefit from the East U of R partnership? What commitments has this district made to try to implement learnings from East, given resources across all schools? And Nicole had the same question around access for more students.
Nicole's original first question there was quite interesting. Was it intended to change a school or a system? And I certainly believe the U of R's intention was to change a school and simultaneously have a larger impact on the system. I can say that unfortunately over the 10 years, we really did seem to operate in a silo. As I said before, it was us and them. I think there were many opportunities for more lessons to have been shared and learned that could have benefited everyone collectively. I feel like we're at the point now that that is really starting to happen and take off at a pretty good pace. But it was not happening the last 9 years. So I'm pleased that the things we have put in place, we will continue to be able to share with the district. And the district has looked closely at many of the things we've done and are trying to put it in place there. As I referred to the teacher leader model, there will now be teacher leaders at all other middle and high schools. The collaborative planning time. They're looking at the impact of how you can look at data and student work and create lessons that all different people have input into, but so you know that every student in that same course at your school is getting the same quality curriculum. Jen?
We're also looking at understanding by design as a universal curricular design framework for curriculum in the district. There's some areas where curriculum exists and others where they're building it. They've been undergoing a curriculum audit. And so kind of while auditing their own and then looking at the curriculum at East and then looking at our model, that seems to be a particular area of interest. And like Marlene said, the teacher leader model, not just the allocation of the positions, but I think it's important to name that we have made a significant shift here in how some instructional coaches are used more operationally, more logistically to truly be teacher facing and supporting the capacity building for high quality instruction in the classroom. So I think they're folding in principles that have been foundational here to the work ahead and to their aspirations as a district as well.
All right, so with 1 minute left to go, I just want to, again, thank everyone for their participation. I want to especially thank the teachers. I'm looking at on the line, I see some teachers in their classrooms logging in with their students in the background, which I think speaks to the commitment of the folks at East. And this work could not have been done without the teaching staff, support staff, the parents, and the students buying in. But it also required administrators to change how we engage all the other stakeholder groups within the school system. And so to our school administrators who don't get a lot of credit a lot of the time, I just want to say thank you for being stewards and leaders in this work. I know how difficult that's been working with our community partners like Mary Coffey and others to not just create a school community within the walls of East, but throughout that entire regional area, geographic area. With that being said, thank you all so much. It is now 1 o'clock. Thank you for your questions. And if you want to hear more or learn more about the transformation work, I encourage you to go to the Center for Urban Education Success website. There's a lot of research articles there. And I also want to thank our interim dean, Melissa Sturge-Apple, for being a huge champion behind the scenes in trying to help us transition to 10 more years. It didn't happen that way, but we did our best to try to extend this EPO. But we're going to continue to be partners and help the RCSD transition, not just the people at East, but to help transition the system as we move forward collectively. So thank you so much. Have a great day and look forward to other webinars for Warner. There's another East one coming up, I think in April. There's a bunch of other ones that the Warner School of Education also offers like these. So I encourage you to get on our listserv and participate in all the various research and practice that they show. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.